As we discussed this proposed Dangote refinery in East Africa, it is important to realize that there are a number of benefits that come with such a refinery. And yes, it will take a while before this idea turns into a reality. But even as we wait for the progress of this particular idea or concept, I want to mention three benefits that would actually be very good for East Africa and also for Kenya. The first one is economic. Having a refinery in the region and in Kenya has a lot of economic benefits. And this can be narrowed down to such issues as, having energy dependence. There will be creation of jobs during that entire construction process. There are businesses that would actually get contracts to supply goods or services during the construction of the refinery as well as after it is complete. And you are looking at all these as benefits that you would get or benefits that East Africans and Kenyan would get if this project was to take off. You cannot forget the financial benefits that the government would get in the form of the revenues it would collect from the taxes it would charge during the entire construction process, as well as an ongoing revenue collection when the facility is operational. Such revenues collected from taxes would definitely help the local government to provide further services to the people in Kenya and as well as to the people within the region. The second benefit that you would get from having the Dangote refinery in East Africa relates to the fact that, as I had mentioned, the region would have an opportunity to actually process or be able to turn the crude oil into finished petroleum products. And that entire process of refining crude oil into finished petroleum products is actually a value-adding activity. It is a form of creating value or adding value to the raw products that are being produced in the region. And this is something that I would actually mention here that, a country like Uganda had already seen. They have seen the potential of such kind of value addition, which explains why they are also building a refinery. And while it might be smaller as compared to the Dangote oil refinery in East Africa, at least they are able to capture some of that value and retain that value in country. And that's the same thing that a refinery that Dangote would build along the Kenyan coast would actually bring. If this is the first time that you and I are meeting, I am Joe, and on this YouTube channel, I talk about oil and gas and the opportunities that are available across the upstream oil and gas sector. And I have a newsletter where I share more of these resources, insights, and business ideas that you can be able to tap into. And if you do want, I'll leave a link in the description below for you to join that community. We are talking of being able to turn crude oil into products that you use on a day-to-day basis. Things that are used in transportation, things that can be used when it comes to power generation, as well as other consumables. And that's the whole idea when people talk about adding value to the things or the products that are actually being produced in Africa, and in this case, within the East African region. You want to be able to ensure that the crude oil that is being produced in this region adds value or has some added value before it gets to the market, while still providing solutions to the energy needs within the region. The third benefit would be the rise of the petrochemical industry. And this is because when you have a refinery, it becomes the source or the source of the feedstock that goes into the growth of a petrochemical sector. And this is because some of the things that are actually byproducts of the refining process are actually things that are very important or become the raw material towards building of petrochemical products. And when I talk of such things, I'm sure you have come across in your either day-to-day living, come across plastics, come across, you use tarmac load, and these are things that come out of crude oil refining. So having a refining capacity or a refining facility in East Africa, and in this particular, the Dangote oil refinery within the Kenyan coastline, would be a good foundation to the growth and development of the petrochemical industry in East Africa. And that would actually end up helping the entire region, and even Kenya in particular, to not only create jobs, but also generate more revenues and provide opportunities for the people within the country and within the region. Having an oil refinery is actually a very good thing, because when you think about it, an oil refinery is an economic catalyst. It is a project that actually supports a lot of other economic activities where it is located, as well as within the region where it is actually constructed. And this is the impact that the Dangote oil refinery in East Africa would have. And the good thing is that this would not be the first time for the East African region to have an oil refinery. Kenya has had an oil refinery at Changamwe, and also Tanzania has an oil refinery within its coastline. And when you look at the impact those oil refineries have had, or they had when they were operational, it was actually a positive thing. And while the two actually refineries in Tanzania and Kenya are no longer operational, meaning that they were decommissioned and now are acting as storage facilities, it does not mean that there is no space for a new refinery in the region. And when you think of the fact that actually the Ugandan crude oil is being exported through the port of Tanga, that could provide an opportunity for an oil refinery to be built in Tanga. But at the same time, we also have, the idea that the Dangote oil refinery can also be built along the Kenyan coast, either in Mombasa or at the new port in Lamu. And that provides an opportunity for actually the entire region to benefit from such a refinery. And not just economically, but also among being a hub for the petrochemical industry in the region. Establishing a refinery along the Mombasa coast, or having the Dangote oil refinery along the coast in Kenya, would actually help to stabilize the prices of petroleum products in the region. It would also help stop the countries in the region to rely on imported petroleum products, which is good for not only the economies but also for the people within the region. So if you ask me, there are a lot of positives and benefits that having the Dangote oil refinery in East Africa would actually bring to the region. This conversation about having a Dangote oil refinery in East Africa is actually happening at the right time. There is a lot that is going on in the world, including the conflict in Middle East, which has actually affected a lot of countries. And many people are realizing that just relying on imported petroleum products is probably not a very smart thing for most of the African countries. And I think the direction that is informing the East African countries to support this idea is based from observing what is happening. Countries in East Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda are actually getting their petroleum products at a very high price, and that is increasing the overall cost of living in the region. And of course, that is affecting the people and also the businesses that are running in the region, because the higher cost of production, the higher cost of energy, has a direct impact on the economic activities across multiple sectors in the region. And all of this is stemming from the fact that the region relies heavily on importing petroleum products from Middle East, which is currently affected by the crisis. And so having a refinery in the coast of Kenya, or having an investor like Aliko Dangote putting up that infrastructural project in East Africa, would actually go a long way in solving this problem of relying on petroleum products from other countries. And a very good example of how a refinery can actually help solve some of the domestic problems that African countries are having is the Cabida oil refinery in Angola, which has started operations. And at 30,000 barrels per day, it is going to help Angola solve one of the problems it has had for years of not actually having enough to meet the domestic demand. And this is going to be it from me today when it comes to this particular video. And if you'd want to learn more about what is going on in the oil and gas industry, watch the video on your screen right now. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not, and I'm going to see you in my next video.